Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you with us. Today, we're diving into some really amazing promises and imagery found in the Book of Mormon, specifically in 3rd Nephi, chapter 22.
It is a beautiful chapter, isn't it?
It is. And, one of the things that's always stood out to me is the imagery in verses 11 and 12. They describe Zion, and it talks about stones laid with fair colors and foundations with sapphires, even windows of agates.
Gates of carbuncles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gates of carbuncles and borders of pleasant stones.
Hmm.
What kind of a picture do you think that paints in your mind?
Well, on the surface, right, it sounds like this incredibly beautiful city.
Right.
Almost kind of, I don't know, magical, right? Who wouldn't want to live in a city with windows made of agate and gates made of carbuncles?
Right.
But I think there's also this deeper meaning there, right?
Absolutely.
When we look at how scriptures use precious stones, it's very rarely just about literal physical stones. Like in the breastplate of the high priest, right? We have all these different stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel.
That's true.
Or think about the foundation of the New Jerusalem in Revelation, described with precious stones. There's always this symbolism.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what we're seeing here too.
So what do you think these particular stones might represent in this context then?
Well, let's take the sapphires, for example.
Okay.
Sapphires often symbolize wisdom, stability. So maybe these sapphire foundations represent a Zion that's built on a foundation of faith, right? Of spiritual understanding.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then what about the agate windows? I've always loved agates. They're just so beautiful.
Me too. And they're known for being translucent, right?
Yeah.
So they let light through, but in this kind of diffused way. So maybe that represents clarity of vision, like being able to see God's hand in our life even when things are tough.
I love that. Yeah. And it makes you think, like you said, there's probably meaning in each one of these stones.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. I love that. And then, as we think about building and growing, the first couple of verses talk about Zion expanding. And verse 2 says, "Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitations. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes."
Yeah.
What do you think that means for us as individuals?
Well, I think about it sometimes, like my own personal testimony, right? When I first joined the church, my testimony was like this little tiny camping tent.
Right.
Like just enough room for me to kind of squeeze in.
Right.
But as I've grown, as I've had experiences, as my understanding has increased, it's like I've had to keep adding on to that tent, make it bigger, make it stronger.
That's such a great analogy.
Yeah, and I think that's what this verse is talking about, this constant need for growth. We're never meant to stay in that little starter tent forever. We're supposed to keep expanding, keep strengthening our foundations.
Absolutely.
And that's exciting, right? It means there's always more to learn, always more to experience.
Absolutely. And I love that it's not just about physical expansion. It's about growing spiritually, growing in our understanding of the gospel.
Exactly. It's about becoming more like Christ, right? And that's a lifelong process.
Absolutely. And then, we have these verses that offer such incredible reassurance.
Yeah.
Verse 4 says, "Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed. Neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame."
Yeah.
And then verse 5, "For thy Maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. The God of the whole earth shall he be called."
It's powerful.
It is. It just brings so much comfort. It's like a warm hug from a loving parent.
Right. And that imagery of God as our husband, that's so powerful, so intimate.
It is.
It speaks to this deep personal relationship that we can have with him. It reminds us that we're never alone, that we're always loved and protected.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the world today with so much uncertainty, so much fear, it's really important to hold on to that truth.
Absolutely. And, even when we make mistakes, even when we feel distant from God, there's that promise in verses 7 and 8. "For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment. But with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Lord thy Redeemer."
It's beautiful.
It is. We've all had those moments where we feel like we've messed up,
Yeah.
right? Where we feel like we've pushed God away.
Absolutely. We all go through trials. We all face challenges.
Yeah.
But these verses remind us that God's love is bigger than all of that. His mercy is infinite.
Yeah.
No matter how far we stray, he's always there, waiting to welcome us back.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like that parable of the prodigal son, right?
Exactly. No matter what we've done, there's always a path back home.
And then we have verse 17, which is just so powerful, so reassuring. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn.
Yeah.
What kind of weapons do you think we're facing in today's world?
I think it can be anything, really. Anything that tries to pull us away from God, doubt, fear, temptation, even just the busyness of life.
That's true.
All those things can be weapons against our spirituality.
Yeah.
But this verse reminds us that we don't have to be afraid. We have the ultimate weapon on our side.
Which is
Faith.
Yes.
Faith in God, faith in his plan, faith in his power to help us overcome any obstacle.
It's such a powerful reminder that we're not fighting these battles alone.
Absolutely. God is with us every step of the way. He's our shield, our protector.
And that brings so much peace, so much comfort.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of 3rd Nephi, chapter 22. It's amazing to see how much hope and power there is in these verses.
I agree. It's a chapter that's full of promises, full of reassurance.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Before we go, we'd like to leave you with a question to ponder. Verse 13 says, "And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children." What does that mean for you? What does it mean to have your children be taught of the Lord?
Right.
And how can we cultivate that in our own families, in our own homes?
Yeah, something to really think about.
Absolutely.